enough. You want to use the word certain maps as well, also can, to show that it's a specialty and it's not the common kind of maps. Okay, now looking at 55 now, maps are typically drawn on a flat surface. A map displayed on a spherical surface is called a globe. While globes can provide the dash information as flat maps, it is a more dash representation. Okay, so we are saying that the globe as well as the map both can show the same thing. Okay, yeah, very good, Adrian. However, we are aware that the Earth is a sphere, it's like a ball, right? So as such, it is likely that the globe will be a more what we call accurate representation. Okay. Then we also have a reason here to attest to the fact that the globe is more accurate. Okay, because the spherical globe shows the Earth as it dash like when observed from outer space. So the keyword is observe. So we are looking at something that can be seen, right? So it will be it looks like. Okay, very good. Unlike modern maps, dash maps had drawings to show locations of features like castles and mountains. Okay, so you can see that these two are very olden day things, right? So we will say early maps or old maps. Okay, to dash that the drawings were clear, they were painted on large canvases. So they had to make sure something is done here. So we'll say to ensure. Okay, such maps were nice to look at and easy to understand. Dash, as more details were included, they became cluttered. Okay, so you can see that there are two pieces of information here. More details included. The next thing is cluttered. Okay, so in this sense, we will use the word however. Okay, we also take note, just now we also have easy to look at and understand. So these two are the contrasting details. Dash time, maps were made simpler. Okay, so we are looking at how there's a change in the process. So we'll say over time. Okay, very good. Modern map makers dash drawings with symbols. So we are saying that the drawings is now shown using symbols. So we can say that they replace the drawings with symbols. Okay, or they substitute also can. So instead of drawing the mountain, I just draw a triangle there, and you know that the mountain is present, right? Each symbol represents one particular thing. Features such as cities, rivers, and railroads are represented dash different symbols. So you can see when you represent something, this is the symbol here needs to point back to your source. Okay, okay, very good, Adrian. So you'll say they are represented by, or you can say they are represented with. Okay, depending on how you interpret it. For dash, double black lines and red between them can be a symbol for main road. So this is a particular example. So it'll be for instance. Okay, or you want to say for example, also accepted. Okay. Dash to maps with drawings, such as such maps contain more details and are still easy to read. So now we are looking at how we are trying to compare the modern versus the map with details. Okay, so we'll say compared with an ed. Okay, please take note, Adrian. Yeah, compared to. Okay, and this is our comprehension close. I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information first before we move on to our new paper. Okay. Okay, so for those of you who have just joined us, we'll be looking at a PLMGS paper. Okay, there are no further questions. Then let's move on to our PLMGS paper. Okay. Okay. Number one. When a spider landed on Clara's nose, it made her dash her heart out. Okay, so this is a very common tenses question. Now, we observe made here is verb 1. Her here is a noun, or to be exact, is a pronoun. Then we have verb number 2. Okay, so when we have a verb noun verb kind of rule, we will use bare infinitive. Therefore, our answer is number 4. Okay, this is a very commonly tested question for tenses. Now let's quickly look at the other options to help our friends learn. Okay, so scream is present tense plural, screams present tense singular, scream with the ed is past tense, and screaming is in a continuous form. Okay, so in other words, I need to add is or are screaming in front, then you'll be in the present continuous tense. Okay, so in other words, we are looking at how an action is ongoing as we speak. Pretty straightforward. Okay, now let's look at number 2. Look for me at the staff room. Dash, you need any help? Okay, so this question here is once again testing you on modal auxiliary verbs. Okay, and we look at how there is a need for help. So there is a need for the teacher to do something. Right? It's like the teacher is obligated to do something. Okay, so Adrian put number 1. Yes, so for this case here, we'll use should, because should is used to show the obligation. Now, you can see that the other options are quite similar to our previous paper. Shall here shows determination, while may shows the kind of offer to do something. I may want to help mother with the laundry tonight. You know, I'm offering my help to her. Will shows a future event. It will rain tomorrow, said the weatherman. Future event. Okay? Verb, noun, verb. Yes. Very good, Adrian. That's for question 1. But your noun is usually like Mary. This is called a noun. If it's like her, she, then that's pronoun. Okay, but they are referring to the same thing. Okay, look at number 3 now. They remember to switch off the lights before leaving for their lunch appointment. Dash, mother asked. Okay, so this question here, once again, is a question tag kind of question. You can see the question types will just keep repeating themselves, just that the context remains different. In this case here, date with a D, this means that we can either use they had or they would. Okay? Now, we need to be very careful for this kind of question, okay? Because over here, we need to know which one is the correct one. So would, when we have had, it'll be had remembered. Okay, but when it's would, it'll be would remember. Okay. So you can see the 2 papers that we have just gone through, the idea or the solution is the same thing. I write it out first and I ask myself, what do I put at the back? Had needs to go with remembered with the ed. Can you see, Adrian? So in this case here, our answer would be number 4, because I will be using would. They would remember is positive, so at the back, the negative connotation would be wouldn't they? Okay. Now, moving on, look at number 4. the police will take decisive actions to subdue people who are a danger dash the public. Okay, so this question here is testing you on prepositions. Maybe I didn't explain earlier, but prepositions are used to show the relationship between things, the location or the position of things as well. Okay? So in this case here, when we talk about how people have become a danger, and we are looking at the danger to this particular recipient, that is the public at large. So we need to use a preposition to show this relationship. Now, the first one is in. In here shows position. To shows direction or recipient. On here shows the surface of object. By shows the method or source. Okay, so in this case here, our answer would be number 2, because the public is the recipient of somebody's action or someone's danger. Okay, let's take a look at number 5 now. The furniture in all the rooms dash to be moved to the corridor by noon, instructed the supervisor. Okay, this question is testing you on subject-verb agreement. It's a very commonly seen question. Almost every paper will have one of these questions. And you need to make sure you get it correct because this is very, very easy. Okay, I can see that Adrian has made a mistake? Okay, just take note. Furniture here is a collective noun, so it will be singular. Okay, so in this case here, you can see that the supervisor talk about something that will happen in the future. So we will use present tense. So present tense and singular, the answer is actually is, not are. Oh, 2 was the previous one. Okay, sorry. Okay, I just want to point out to everyone, if I say the 2 pieces of furniture in all the room, blah, 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 then the answer will be are. Because 2 pieces here is plural. Okay, just take note. Apart from furniture, we have things like equipment and luggage. They also fall under the same category of collective nouns. As such, we need to use a singular verb when we encounter such things. Okay? And likewise, if we have the word pieces in front, 3 pieces of equipment, 10 pieces of luggage, then we can use a plural. Okay? And please be very careful. There's no such thing as luggages or equipments or furnitures. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Okay, I just give everyone some time to take in the information first. Then we will move on to our next 5 questions of vocab or of grammar. Okay, if there are no further questions, let's take a look at number 6 now. Suresh and his cousins managed to board the last train when the concert ended just before midnight. Dash to their relief. Okay, so this question here is testing you on determiners. Now, what are determiners? Basically, determiners here are used to convey the meaning of the quantity of something. Okay? So looking at the question and the keywords, they managed to board the last train. So therefore, they must be very relieved, which suggests a high quantity of something, right? Next, we observe that relief here is uncountable. Okay. So in this case here, our answer is number 1, much to their relief. Okay. And this is because much here is of high quantity and uncountable. Most here is high quantity and is comparative. Okay, so we need to have some sort of comparative elements inside, then it'll work. Little is low quantity, uncountable. Less, this is also low quantity, but there's that comparative element inside, so we can't use it. Okay. Now look at number 7. The shoplifter was caught red-handed by the security guards and dashed away for further questioning. Okay, so for question 7, we're interested in tenses. Okay, and there are 2 things that we observe in this question. He was caught red-handed. Okay, so over here, it really tells you that it's in the past tense, right? Now with that in mind, let's take a look at the options. Took here is past tense. Taken, this is in the participle form. Was taking, this is it. This is a past continuous tense. So in other words, we are looking at how the action was continuing sometime in the past. And the first one is have been taken. So we are looking at how the action is completed, but the effect is still felt. Okay. So in this case here, the answer would be he was caught red-handed and taken away. Okay. Because we are not looking at how the 2 actions took place at the same time. It's one after the other. Okay. Now moving on to question 8. There's the shortage of funds. The villagers' plan to build a school for the children fell through. Okay, so for this question here, we're looking at the cause and effect relationship. Because firstly, we observe that there is a shortage of funds. And the next thing that we observe is the plan to build the school fell through. Cause, effect. Okay, so in this case here, the conjunction that we'll be using is owing to. Okay, very good. I like potato chips because this shows cause-effect relationship. Now, looking at the others, the first one is since. Since here is used to show, this question 8, right? It's used to show reasons. Since it was raining, I decided not to go to my running class. Despite is used to show contrast. Okay, even though this is also used to show contrast. Okay, as some of our friends who attended our lesson earlier this afternoon, maybe you will remember the different conjunctions that I introduced to you that can show contrast. Okay. Okay, for our other friends who missed it, you can always catch the YouTube recording of it. Okay. Now moving on, let's take a look at number 9. Never in my life dash such an angelic voice. You definitely deserve a place in the final round of this competition, complimented one of the judges. Okay, so question 9 here is testing you on tenses. Okay. Now, you can see that this action has already been completed at the time of speaking. Okay, the judge must have heard the singing already. That's why he can give his compliment to the singer, right? So with that in mind, let's take a look at the options. The first one is have heard. Okay, just ignore the I first. So when you have heard, this is in present perfect. Okay, so in other words, we are looking at how the action is completed, but the effect is still felt. Okay. Next, had heard. So had here is in the past perfect tense. So basically, we're trying to show that one action occurred before the second took place. Okay, so in this case here, we will not use number 3 and 4 because there's only one completed action that we are interested in. That is the judges hearing the girl sing. Okay. Okay, I hope everyone is following me so far. So now we look at number 1 and number 2. Now there's this word here, never. So this will affect how we choose the option actually. Because when there's the word never, it's what we call the subject auxiliary inversion. Okay, so in other words, instead of saying I have heard, these two needs to invert to have I heard. So the answer will be number 1. Okay, so very good, Adrian. Okay, now moving on, let's take a look at number 10. Dash's father is allergic to nuts. Daniel should not have offered him the peanut butter sandwich. So this question here is testing you on tenses. Now we look at a few things. Firstly, the fact, the knowledge here is ongoing. That's why they say Daniel should not, because the should here shows that there is a need to avoid something. Okay, so with this idea in mind, our answer would be number 2. Because knowing here is in the continuous form. So in other words, something is ongoing, which is the knowledge. Okay. Now we have a few other options. The first one is have known. So have known over here is in your present perfect tense. Okay, and this means that my action is completed, but the effect is still felt. Knew here is past tense and know is present tense and plural. Okay, so we don't really need to use the other options because we are looking at an ongoing action. Okay, I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information first before we move on to our next section. All right. Okay, moving on. Let's take a look at number 11. Jessie started jotting down notes since she could not dash all the information that her tutor was presenting to the class. Okay, so you can see that you're looking at how when you jot down notes, you're trying to remember or recall something later. So when you look at your notes, you'll be like, oh, yeah, the teacher said this, right? So looking at the options given, the first one is retain. So retain means that you want to keep possession of something or continue to have something. Okay. Revive means that you restore something to life. So usually the person he collapsed or maybe he's fainted, then you need to revive him. Okay. Reconcile here means that you restore the relationship between people. And relinquish means that you give up the role. So for example, your class monitor relinquished his position. That means he's no longer the class monitor. All right. So because you want to recall something later, you need to make sure you have the information with you at the current moment. So the closest answer is number 1. She could not retain the information. Okay. Now let's take a look at number 2. The leader's top dash was to find a safe place for the hikers to spend the night when they were lost in the forest. So this is basically the number 1 action the leader is trying to do, right? Yes, number 1 priority. Okay, so in this case here, priority means that this condition is more important than the others. Okay, urgency here means that something requires swift action. Preference means that you have a greater liking of something. Okay, and lastly, we have consequence, which means a result or effect of something. Okay. So in this case here, my answer would be number 1 priority. Okay, so very good. I like potato chips and our other friends. Okay, Zoe, for English, I just use common sense and I always pass. Okay, that's good. But I think the idea is not just passing, but getting your distinction. Okay, so my challenge to everybody is, are you just satisfied with a pass or you will want AL1 or AL2? Okay, just some food for thought. All right. If there are no further questions, then let's move on to number 13. To attract more customers to the restaurant, the manager told his staff to display the publicity poster at a dash place near the entrance. Okay, so the publicity poster here means that you want a lot of people to see. Am I right? So with that in mind, let's take a look at the options. Okay, so the first one is quaint. Quaint, that means it's attractive because it's old-fashioned. Secluded means something is not seen or visited by many people. Okay, Adrian, I like potato number 4. Okay, conspicuous basically means that something is clearly visible. Okay, while recognizable means something is familiar because it's seen before. Okay, so in this case here, our answer, like what you have said, is number 4. Very good. Okay, look at number 14 now. That spoiled boy is so insistent that his mother dashed and buy him the toy on display. Okay, you say that this is quite a straightforward question. Spoiled boy means that he probably is very stubborn, right? Okay, number 1, give in. Yes. So basically, give in here means that you stop resisting and agree to something. Okay, next we have give back. So give back here means that you return something to the person who gave you. Then you have give away, which means that you give something freely as a gift. And lastly, we have a give up on. So give up means you stop having faith in something or someone. Okay. So in this case here, the answer will be number 1. Because probably the mother did not want to buy him the toy, but eventually the mother said, okay, fine. Okay. And now moving on to question 15, it reads, the retired sniffer dog used to be adopted by canine officers only, but the adoption scheme has now been dashed to the public. So we are looking at how more people can adopt the canine dogs. Okay. So looking at the options, the first one is enlisted. So enlisted means you engage someone's help. Next is enlarged, which means that something is made larger or more extensive. Okay. Next is extended, which means that you add something to original object. Okay, and exempt here means that you are free from any obligation or liability. Basically something is not compulsory. Okay, so in this case here, we're looking at how more people can adopt compared to the original scheme or the original project where the canine officers can only adopt it, right? So in this case here, the closest answer would be number 3, extended. Okay, so very good. I like potatoes. I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information first before we move on further to our next few questions. Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, then let's move on to our vocabulary close now. So what will happen is as follows. I'll read through the text with you and we'll understand the underlying words. Once done, we'll look at the options and choose the most appropriate one. So it reads, my grandpa was lost and confused. His face locked in a puzzled expression. He surveyed the surroundings like an explorer stepping on newfound land, but this was not a newfound land. So the first one is puzzle. So puzzle here means you are unable to understand something. You may be very confused as well when you are puzzled. Okay. Sensing his need for assistance. So need for assistance here means someone require help or support. Okay. I went forward and guided him to his bed. As he settled in his blanket, he asked the same question, who are you? So at the first, the loss of grandpa's memory was easy to miss. He would mix up our names. So mix up here means you confuse somebody's name with something else. Okay, then he began to forget what he had eaten, barely a minute after his meals, which shows a very short period of time. Okay. So one day he could not even recognize the door to our flat. To jog his memory, we filled his room with keepsakes from the past. My favorite was a photograph of him and me taken 10 years ago. That photograph brought fond memories and reminded me of grandpa's unconditional love. Okay, so keepsake here basically is just referring to the small item kept in memory of the person who gave it to you. Okay. So with all this in mind, let's take a look at the options. So for question 16, we are looking at how someone is unable to understand something, is confused, right? So the first one is dejected. Dejected means sad and depressed. Okay, unsettled here means you are nervous or worried. Animated means that you are full of life and excitement. Okay, and bewildered means that you are perplexed and confused. Okay, and the closest answer we have here is number 4. Because of the word confused, which means that you don't know what is happening. Okay. Now, if we look at number 17, the need for assistance, that means someone needs help, right? So looking at our options, number 1 is helplessness. Okay, which suggests that you have the inability to act or defend oneself. Okay, next is the word aimlessness. So aimlessness here means without clear purpose or direction. Then we have listlessness, which means that someone lacks energy or enthusiasm. While loneliness here means that you have sadness because you have no friends. Okay. So in this case here, when we look at how grandpa needs assistance, it basically means that he's unable to help or act or do something alone. So the closest answer is number 1. Okay. Now moving on, look at number 18 now. He will mix up our names. So basically he's confusing person A's name with person B and so on and so forth. So looking at the options, the first one is merge. Merge means you combine to form a single entity. Jumble here means you mix up something in a confused way. Then you have detach, which means that you disengage part of something, or you remove part of something. Okay. And associate means you connect somebody with someone else in one's mind. Okay. So in this case here, when grandpa mix up the name, it's likely that he jumbled up the name. That means after word mix up here. Okay, that means he cannot remember the name correctly. Okay, moving on, let's take a look at number 19 now. Okay, so number 19 here, the word is barely a minute, which suggests a very short period of time, right? So the first one, finally. Finally means after a long time. Promptly, on the other hand, means immediately, no delay. Okay. Then we have ultimately. So ultimately means finally or in the end. So it suggests a very long period of time as well. Okay, and lastly, eventually here means after a long delay. So it's very clear cut. There's a contrast in your time period. Three of the options are a very long time period, whereas what we need is a very short time period. So the only answer that we have is number 2, promptly. Okay, here, no delay or immediately. Okay, then last one we have is keepsakes. So keepsakes are basically your small items that you keep in memory of the person. Okay, this one is more tricky because you can see that all 4 options actually suggest some sort of something that it can be held in your hand, some kind of object of the past, right? So looking at the differences, artifacts here refer to object with historical significance. Okay, so for example, you're looking at the surrender document from World War II, historical significance. Ornaments here means that we are looking at a thing used to make something more attractive. But it's of no use. So for example, during Chinese New Year, you will buy all those ornaments like the fish or the those calligraphy things. It doesn't really serve a practical purpose in the house, but it just makes the house look very nice and have the Chinese New Year vibes. Okay, mementos number 3 refers to some kind of souvenir that allows you to remember of the place or person. Okay, while knickknacks here refer to small worthless objects. Okay, so in this case here, when we look at how the keepsakes remind grandpa of the author and vice versa, the closest answer we have would be mementos. Okay. Okay, with that, we have come to the end of this part. So I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information first before we move on to our next section, which is section B. Okay. So if there are no further questions, then let's move on to our next section. Okay, so let's take a look at some grammar first. Okay. So malaria is a disease spread by mosquitoes. People usually get malaria dash being bitten by an infected female mosquito. So you can see this is the method in which you can get infected by malaria. Okay. So we'll say that they can get malaria. There's no by here, right? So instead of method, we can talk about a sequence of events. Okay, so in this case, we're looking at how you need to get bitten already, then you contract the malaria virus, right? So in a sense, to show this sequential flow of events, we'll use the word after. Okay, so symptoms of malaria such as fever, chills, and muscle aches begin appearing from 7 days dash 4 weeks later. So we are trying to show the variety in terms of time period. Okay, so we'll say from 7 days to 4 weeks later. So malaria is only found in hot and humid countries like Myanmar and Singapore. It's difficult to fight malaria in Myanmar dash in Singapore. So you can see more difficult here. We're trying to do some kind of comparison. Okay, so you'll say it's more difficult to fight in that country, unlike in Singapore, than in Singapore. Okay, because of the comparison used here. The reason is that Myanmar is a larger country dash far more forests, making it harder to control breeding places. Now, look at question 32. We're looking at how the country has different things. More forest. So this is a characteristic. It belongs to Myanmar, right? So we'll say the country with far more forests. Myanmar is a less developed country dash Singapore. So we are looking at how there's a contrast in terms of the development status. And Singapore is the polar opposite of Myanmar. So the answer here would be unlike Singapore. Okay? So the people in Myanmar live in villages surrounded by forests. Dash are good breeding places for mosquitoes. Now for question 34 here, we are looking at how the forest can breed mosquitoes. We are looking at a relative pronoun, right? So in this case here, the answer would be which. Okay? Hospitals and clinics are far and few. Dash. So over here, for question 35, we are looking at how the hospital and clinics aren't not really accessible. Okay, not really accessible to all the villagers. Okay, this is more challenging, but the word that we use is they are far and few between. So let's say the villagers are here. There is no assumption that there's a hospital building in between. So we're trying to emphasize this fact. Okay. The government decided to rely dash volunteers from the villagers. Okay. So when you rely, usually you need to rely on somebody. That means you need the person to do something for you. Okay. The training and medicine for health volunteers are paid dash by foreign donors. So when you pay, you are paying to take ownership of the object, right? So in this case here, we will say that something is being paid for by the foreign donors. Okay, so it will be D. The villagers are more likely to come forward to be tested dash they become more and more aware of the disease. So you can see this is an ongoing action. They get more and more aware, they know about the disease. So the answer would be M. Okay, so we are talking about a particular situation here, a particular action. Okay, I just hope everyone is following me so far. Okay, I just leave this here for a bit for everyone to take in the information first before we move on to our next part. Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, let's move on to our editing now. Rahim and I know each other well. We are familiar with each other's hobbies. So familiar is spelled this way. Spelling error, yeah. Quirky mannerisms. Quirky means like very funny, very weird sometimes. And even our most embarrassing secrets. So embarrassing is spelled this way. However, the most important aspect of our friendship is helping each other become a dash person. So you can see, good here is adjective. But what we are looking at is that comparative word. So we'll say to become a better person. As my best friend, Rahim is excellent dash relieving my stress and making me laugh. So you can see excellent, that he is good at this particular skill here. So you'll be excellent at. Okay. Unfortunately, his optimistic attitude has a downside. So optimistic is a spelling error. This is how you spell it. He has a tendency to dash any serious situation. So when you have to, it needs to be followed with the base form. That is present tense and plural. So you'll be dismiss. One fateful occasion, however, changed that. So occasion is also spelled wrongly. Okay. So it was a week before our examinations. I was buried in a dash heap of work when Rahim was busy folding origami paper crates. So we are looking at how the heap is mountainous, right? This is a spelling error. Okay, bye-bye, Adrian. So mountainous is spelled this way. Okay. Then you can see Rahim was doing something else. So this is a concurrent activity or action. So it will be wow. Okay. I pleaded with Rahim to get down to some serious studies, not studies, is studying. Okay, because we are looking at this particular verb. Studies is your noun. So you shook your head in exasperation. So this is how you spell it. Exasperation. Okay. All too soon, it was the examinations. Having worked hard, I breezed through the papers. I caught dash of Rahim later. He looked pale and perspiring even though it was a cool day. So you always caught sight because this is a noun. See is a verb, is an action that we will not consider this for this case here. Okay. And with that, we have come to the end of this section. I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information first before we move on to our next part. Okay. Okay. If there are no further questions, we can take a look at some synthesis and transformation questions now. Okay. Freddie's form teacher had to send Freddie for counseling. He played truant frequently. Okay, so this question here allows you to see the cause here, truant, playing truant, and the effect, which is he needs to be sent for counseling, right? So it will be due to his frequent truancy. Okay, Freddie's form teacher had to send him for counseling. Okay. So in this case here, we're looking at frequent now being an adjective. We're trying to describe his truancy. So the truancy here refers to the many events when he skipped school. And this is a noun. Okay? It's slightly different from the word form in the given question. Because truant here is a noun as well. He played truant. Sorry, give me a moment. Yes, the truant here is a noun and the frequently here is an adverb. Okay, so we are trying to show that the way he played truant is a, 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 a very long period of time and it's done very often, right? Next, let's take a look at number 67. Is this the problem sum you are trying to solve? Mrs. Chan asked Katie. So it will be Mrs. Chan wanted to know whether, so this will be changed to that. Problem sum, she has been trying to solve. Okay, whether that is the problem sum. She had been trying to solve. Okay, sorry, this is not has but should be had. Okay, so the reason being we need to move back one time period from past to participle. Okay, Okay, I'll say that for your reported speech kind of question, it's very common in the exams, right? I think what's more important is being able to identify the time period and selecting the correct verb for it. Okay, so look at number 68 now. Ali was full of mischief. He admitted to playing a prank on the new teacher. So now when you have the word be, we are trying to show an ongoing characteristic of the person. So we are saying that this person will behave in a particular way. So we'll say being mischievous, Ali admitted to playing a prank on the new teacher. Okay? I think this is quite easy to follow. Okay, now look at question 69. Peter introduced me to the tour guide who is taking me around Bangkok. Okay, now we're looking at whom. Whom here is in the object form. That means the person must be the recipient of some kind of action. Now, if we look at the question, the introduce here is your action, your verb. And who is the person doing it? It's actually Peter, not the tour guide. And the tour guide is the recipient of Peter's introduction. So this is the object. So you see, it's a bit tricky now. So it will not start with Peter, but it will be start with tour guide because I want to use the whom to describe the tour guide. So it will be the tour guide whom Peter introduced me to is taking me around Bangkok. Can you see now? So we need to be very clear when we encounter such relative pronouns. When it's who, then we are trying to replace the subject of the sentence. Okay, I'm going into a bit of grammar MCQ here now. So we need to identify subject and object of sentences when we do grammar questions. Now, how do we know which is what? It's simple. We always identify the verb first. So the person who is engaging in the action, who is engaging in the verb, will be considered subject of sentence. Whereas the person who is at the receiving end of this particular action will be the object of the sentence. Okay? I'm not saying that the person is an object. I'm saying that he's the recipient of the action and therefore he's considered, right, in our grammar terms, object. Okay? Okay, now we are looking at our last question now, question 17. The icing on the cupcake looks very delicious. It's impossible not to eat it. So it will be, so you can see it's a bit more challenging now when they give to not eat such, to not eat such. Okay, so how do we go about this? Now, we look at the question, it says almost impossible. That means there's 100% chance of eating it. Okay, so when they say to not eat such, we'll describe the cupcake first. So it will be delicious cupcake, delicious icing on the cupcake. Is almost impossible. Okay. And that will be our answer for question 17. I'll say it's a bit more challenging, and I believe it's because we don't usually encounter such questions in most papers. This is my first time in the 2022 sets that I've seen this question, right? Okay, I'll just give everybody some time to take in the information first before we move on to our next section. Okay. All right. Are there any more questions? If not, thank you so much everyone for joining me on our Writers at Work TikTok. I'm teacher Nathan, and I'll see you guys around on our Saturday and Sunday lessons. Okay, bye bye.